I think healthcare is going to happen, and infrastructure is going to happen. You're going to have a lot of exciting things over the next few months, and I look forward to being able to produce it. Let's see what happens. If we had even a little Democrat support, just a little, like a couple of votes, you'd have everything. But again, they just want to stop. They just want to obstruct. And their plan isn't working because they thought they were going to win last night in Atlanta. And they've been unbelievably nasty, really nasty. And they thought they spent close to $30 million on this kid who forgot to live in the community that he was in. I mean, you know. I am making it a little bit hard to get their support, but who cares? And if Karen Handel had lost, they would have blamed it on me, which is fine. But if she had lost, they would have been there for weeks talking about this. This would have been the greatest defeat in the history of American politics. When she won, when they said, projected winner is Karen Handel, then they said, we switch to another program, right? So it was so short. They couldn't get out of there fast enough. This happened in Montana, right? In Kansas. Last night, South Carolina, with Ralph, who was expected to win and he won. California. So, but it's been incredible. So we're 5-0. We're 5-0. And
of course, he was talking about the race, the special election in the Congressional 6th District of Georgia, which once upon a time was held by the former Speaker of the House and former 2012 GOP presidential candidate. Of course, we're talking about Newt Gingrich, whose book, Understanding Trump, just hit #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Congratulations, Mr. Speaker. Good morning to you.
Well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you to everybody at Fox who helped us do such a good job with Understanding Trump.
Well, it's a really good book. So, you know, we heard before the election this was going to be a referendum on Donald Trump. At least that's what the mainstream media wanted us to think. We also saw the early polls. No way she could win, but she did. What happened?
It was a referendum on Donald Trump.
That was easy.
I mean,
you know Georgia,
was right.
You know that district, and you know too that he spent $20 million more.
Look, largest Republican turnout ever in a Georgia special election. People said, "Oh, this is really a and Karen Handel is a good candidate. She got better and better as the campaign went on. Ossoff's not living in the district, as President Trump pointed out, just became a huge weight on him. They had a debate, and each got to ask one question. She turned and said, "So who are you going to vote for in the election?" He couldn't answer because he wasn't allowed to vote in his own election. Yeah. And I think all that stuff came together. But in the end, I think the margin of victory were people who were determined not to allow the news media and Nancy Pelosi and Hollywood liberals to defeat Donald Trump in their district. And I think that was probably the margin of victory. So the news media had it right. This was a referendum on Trump. He won. The problem for the news media is they can't come to grips with the fact that in 5 different specials, the Republicans have won. And that sort of says maybe Trump's doing a lot better in America than he is in the news media.
Mr. Speaker, there's questions about Nancy Pelosi's future coming from both parties, obviously. And now we're hearing from Democrats, some of them not really willing to speak out on that. But still, Democrats are having their issues. Is it time for some soul searching? Is it time for some changes, possibly at the top with Nancy Pelosi?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, you want to keep her.
I hope they keep Nancy for 10 more years. I want her there for at least another decade. I mean, we have all the ads done. They work perfectly in Georgia. We know exactly how to run against the Nancy Pelosi-led party. We'd love to have the question be in 2018, Nancy Pelosi versus Paul Ryan. And I hope that the Democrats keep her right where she is for a long, long time, at least a decade.
You know, one thing is clear, Mr. Speaker, even from the week you were here when your book rolled out, is that I sense that the Russia thing has hit a brick wall, and that the Democrats, after these 4 straight losses, are going to let him be president and go at him on health care, North Korea policy, and things like that, because even they can't get a show through with collusion.
Well, let me draw a distinction. I think you're right, and I think, frankly, we were not very smart. I mean, Jay Johnson put it right yesterday. Remember, for Jay Johnson to say the Russians had successfully done something, he had to say he failed as Homeland Security Chief. And so we should have turned it back on the Obama administration from day one and said, are you telling us that you were so incompetent that for 6 months the Russians were doing something and you didn't know it? I think they would have to have said, oh, no, we're not that incompetent. So I think Jay Johnson was one more, and he was a very competent guy. I think he's one more brick, if you'll put it, in that wall. Here's the problem. Mueller, who's hiring liberal Democrats as the lawyers, who came from a law firm which gave, think about this number, gave 0.19%, 0.19 of 1% of its donations went to Trump. 99.81% went to Hillary. That's where Mueller's from.
Right.
Mueller's now going to drop Russia, go to obstruction. If he can't make obstruction work, he's going to drop obstruction and go to finances. But he is out there trying to find a way to get either Trump or somebody close to Trump. I think it is disgraceful. I think it's a disaster. And people need to understand. Mueller's running a left-wing Democratic group. The lawyers he's hired have terrible records. One of them was employed by the Clinton administration specifically to stop Freedom of Information Act requests. Now, how's that for transparency?
Yeah.
One of them was repudiated 9-0 by the Supreme Court after they destroyed a company with 85,000 jobs. So, I mean, you look carefully at Mueller, because now it's not going to be Russia. Now it's going to be a personal vendetta by Robert Mueller against the President of the United States. Well,
you know what's interesting, Mr. Speaker? We had Mark Penn on the program about 20 minutes ago, and he said he's got a new Harris-Harvard poll that's going to be coming out, he said, Monday in the Hill newspaper. And one of the findings is, and he was reluctant to give us the full depth of it, but the headline is, regarding Russia, the American people think that all this Russia talk and how they're promoting it on the Democratic side is hurting America.
Yeah, well, it does. I mean, but look, the Democrats have made it very clear that they are, and we'll see what happens as they digest the defeat in Georgia, because that may have been sort of the unlocking event that gets them to come to grips with reality. But up until now, since election night, they have been so traumatized by losing and so traumatized by Donald J. Trump winning that they have literally been incapable of cooperating on almost anything. And I hope the president's right. I think, for example, in the Senate, I wouldn't be shocked, because Mitch McConnell's such a great leader, to see 2 or 3 Democrats from very heavily Trump states, a North Dakota, a Missouri, a Montana,
West
and
Virginia.
Indiana, maybe make a decision they're going to vote for West Virginia. That some of those may decide they want to vote for the health bill because they don't want to go home as an anti-Trump, bitter end liberal.
It would be stunning.
Because they won't get reelected if that's
It would
what
be
they do.
stunning, because we haven't seen that in 9 years.
But it's possible.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Speaker, thanks for coming on with us this morning. Good to see you.
And stay number 1, okay, Mr. Speaker? Let's do it 2 weeks in a row.